as well. So I'll put that in the chat as Eric kind of gets going.
Yeah, absolutely. So today's going to be sourcing deals from local agents, which I know we've kind of hinted at before with doing this. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. So when me and Randy were talking about it, this is a way that I have actively got a ton of my investors deals. And I actually just talked to an investor from Dallas yesterday, and that's what he does as well. He networks with local agents, and that's how he gets a good portion of his deals. So we're going to kind of talk about that. We're going to talk about how to do it, how to build the rapport, who should you build the rapport with, just so you're not wasting your time. And I think coming up with a game plan. I did want to say something in terms of like the meetings once a month. Feel free to invite agents. This is not like a closed, like, only select members, like crazy MasterCard have to like invite anybody who you know that might find value in this, because we're doing this to kind of give back, try and help people grow their business and everything like that. So I did want to caveat that real quick.
And it's for investors and agents. So we
Yeah.
want to basically, bridge the gap, right, between the investor, make them understand how to work with realtors better, and then realtors to understand the value of working with investors. So it's a mixed group here.
Yeah. And before we get started, quick, because I know we try to do this too. Addison, do you have any market news for us if you are unmuted by chance? He sent me something before we did this. So I'm expecting he got excited. So I thought, oh, I have my
That's
thing
right.
off. There we go.
Yeah, what do you got? What do you got for us, Addison, on the mortgage side? What's the
So
update?
there's a couple things as far as rates. I mean, rates did go down quite a bit in the last month since we've last visited. They did hit a pretty nice low. But since then they've kind of been retracting back up. The treasury yields. I sent Eric. It was a 1 month graph of the treasury yield, and it's a pretty grim sight to look at now that we're back over 4. Rates are still anywhere from 6.125 to 7% for the most part on conventional FHA loans, but they are starting to creep back up. It's something to keep an eye out on. Even earlier this week, the stock market kind of went down a little bit over talks of there not being as many rate cuts as there were going to be this year. So just definitely keep your eye on interest rates. No one really knows if they're going to go up or down at this time. Hopefully they kind of stay steady. Some other things that have came out, like I sent Eric today, we are now able to do second mortgages on homes. And what's really neat about this from an investor standpoint is we can do them as a P&L. We can do them as a DSCR. So there's a lot of different routes to get your money out of the house on the second mortgage. You don't necessarily have to qualify on paper like you normally would for a mortgage to do that.
Up to what? Up to what LTV?
85%.
Okay.
CLTV. CLTV.
Okay.
So that goes
and
up quite a bit.
What are the rates as of today on something like that of a product?
Let me see. As of today, with no rate buy down, using non-QM, so DSCR, not being able to qualify on paper, it's about a 9.125 for the second mortgage.
Got it. And then what if you were able to qualify?
If you were able to qualify, you'd probably be somewhere closer to around 8.25.
Okay.
With a 740 FICO score. So, I mean, that's a pretty good lucrative way to take money out. Another option that we have came out with in the past month are these HELOCs. They're very quick, very minimal documentation, and you can pull out quite a bit of money. I think it's up to $400,000 in less than a week on your property. And then, as you know, a HELOC, you have a withdrawal period where you can withdraw that money again for up to 5 years. And they are 5, 10, 15, and 30-year HELOCs.
And then up to what LTV again?
I believe the HELOCs go up to 85% as well. It may be 80%, but I think it's 85.
Got it. Okay. So let me ask you this: Will this also work with? Because I'm doing some marketing to buyers in San Diego County that might want to assume a VA loan, right? So they're a VA buyer, they want to assume a VA loan, and there's a gap right? In most cases where they're going to have to bring a large chunk of a down payment, right? Would that also something you can do for those type of
Yeah.
clients?
Yeah, the
Okay.
second mortgage would work for that for sure. The HELOC, I
Yeah.
believe, would work for it too. You may already have to have the house in your name to do the HELOC, but the second mortgage would work 100% to make up for
Okay.
that gap.
Because it could pencil, right? If they take over a loan, that's maybe, I don't know, 60% LTV at the current moment at 3%, and then they get, another 20% or 25%, even at 8% interest rate, it could still work out in their
And
favor.
that may be the kind of niche market they're trying to go in with these. I literally got the email 30 minutes before the meeting that these came out. I sent it to Eric. I was like, look at this. I was like, I've first time I've seen this come out. Well, I've seen it from a non-DSCR, non-QM standpoint, but never being able to use your bank statements, a profit and loss from your CPA or the DSCR. That's pretty neat.
Cool. Good stuff. So, yeah, Addison is our lender partner for Investor Agent Nation. So, I'm glad you remembered to get an update from him. This is good info, man. Thanks, Addison.
Yeah. If a deal goes sideways, he's the one person. Like, if anybody can typically get it done, it's him. So anytime I've had something go sideways, he's always he saves everything. So
Oh, and
I know
I
that.
can either rip it off like a band-aid if it won't work, or there's some lucrative ways to try and save some deals.
And
Yeah,
you're in
and
most states, right, Addison?
Yeah, pretty much any state other than New York.
New York, man.
Sorry,
We
New
do have
York, if you're here, we're
I know.
sorry.
We do have a question. There's a VA assumable loan in Salinas that the buyer does not have to be a VA. That is true for most veteran VA loans. It affects their VA eligibility. So they only
Yeah.
have so much eligibility. So most of the time, every VA loan is assumable, even if you're not a veteran. The only thing is it's going to affect the eligibility.
Oh, that's not Alma.
Not a
Alma
question.
said it's not a question. That was just her comment. But yes, I agree. There are properties up on the market where the VA buyer doesn't have to be the buyer doesn't have to be VA to assume the VA loan. So that's
Yeah,
correct.
it's just eligibility there. Cool.
All
We
right, let's
will,
roll.
yeah, transfer back over to the topic. So yeah, we're basically going to be talking about sourcing deal referrals from realtors locally. I do have a couple of examples that we're going to use as well. But I figured, Randy, would you want me to kind of start in on like where to look and stuff like that, and then go to the examples after, or would you like me to do it opposite? Go
No,
into the
just
examples first.
go right into it, man. Because go into the examples because I love how you do it. It's so simple and in terms of the
Yeah.
code, and it's Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so essentially, like this kind of happened by accident the first few times. But when I first started working with one of my investors in Cincinnati, he was a big fan of me posting in groups. So he wanted me to post in investor groups. If you look up like whatever city you're in, like Cincinnati investor group, Cincinnati investor, Cincinnati investment, you'll get like 5,000 groups. I always went with kind of the top ones, most amount of people in there, but I'd find some niche down ones that I knew where they were at, and then I'd join into them. Wouldn't start if you join a group. I wouldn't start spamming the page with a bunch of posts. Be in there, offer some value to start out. Don't do anything crazy. So like kind of where to look for these agents, because there's certain agents we want to go with. Not every agent's going to have off-market deals. Probably 95% of agents never are going to have a deal other than like the carpet needs replaced. It's kind of in some bad work. Most agents aren't going to have a ton of deals that come across their desk that need work. So some of the best agents that I found this to work for would be agents that work with probate deals or any sort of attorney, divorce attorney, trustee attorney, anything where there's already kind of some emotion involved and there's some pain points. So that's what I always looked for. I looked for agents that I knew were already had those connections. They're having deals come across their desk, and they have so many of them that they tend to be a pain. They're long. There's typically a long timeline until that property gets listed. There's also typically a lot of lag time and just difficulty with doing it. So always look for agents, like find kind of a niche and then go after those ones. Investor meetings were a great way that I kind of sourced a lot of my agents. So I would sit there and talk at investor meetings, find other agents, and then instead of just being like, okay, like they're an agent, it doesn't work. I would move on to the next thing. Let all co-op agents know that you work. Oh, go ahead.
I think what would be good to premise is that, so Eric is speaking from a perspective where he's got a bunch of investor clients. Well, that's what
Mhm.
Eric is really good at, right? He works with a lot of investors. That's how he built out his whole business in Cincinnati and now doing it in Tampa, just redoing the same strategy, right?
Yeah.
But he's basically, he built great relationships with a few serious investors, and then he's leveraging those relationships that he's now licensed, and he's now posting in what you'll see in groups on behalf of those investors, but it looks like he's partners with them, right? Because he
Yep.
is.
Yep.
He's their agent partner for the investor that has given them, the investor has given Eric the green light, like, hey, go ahead, go source deals for me. So Eric is like, well, all right, well, I don't have those type of listings personally. How do I find them? Right.
Yeah.
And realtors, like Eric said, it's rare, right? Where a listing falls in your lap that needs a lot of work, but it does happen. So how do we stay in front of those type of agents where they get those onesie twosies falling in their lap, and or go into, the niche ones that work with probates? Like on my team here in San Diego, as an example, I have a team member, Jeff Kim, and he literally only focuses on working with probate and estate attorneys.
Mhm.
That is his only lead gen for his real estate business, and he transitioned his whole model to that a couple of years ago, and it's been amazing to watch. And guess what? A lot of those properties need work, and they go to investors, like Eric said. So imagine
Yep.
building that type of relationship. Like, it's a game changer. But I just want to premise that. Now, if you're an investor listening to this, the way I would think, it's like, how do I find agents that do what Eric is about to do, or you teach them to do what Eric is about to do if you don't have the time to do it, right? As an investor. So that's
Yeah.
the way I want you to think about it from the investor standpoint or from a realtor perspective. Eric is going to talk about it more from how does he do it for his investor clients as an agent, right?
Yeah.
Networking. Go ahead. I just want to premise kind of the context.
Yeah. No, and I will preface it too. Like I'll say, like it takes a lot of work. Like this was not like this was over a 5-year period of when I was in Cincinnati that these relationships were built up, and it took a while. It's not like you're going to go out tomorrow and find some amazing agent that just sources you all of your deals. So it takes time. So I think that's definitely good. And yeah, I'm talking about it more from the agent side, like what I did for my investors and how we did it, but also how we could source deals from it. Any co-op agent that I worked with, I always let them know. Hey, if you have any investment deals, like just asking for it, sometimes asking will help. Say if you have any deals that need work or anything like that, even if it was a retail house I was selling or a retail buyer I was representing, I would always kind of bring it up at some point. Like we'd have some sort of discussion. It would lead to I work with a lot of investors, and it would lead to, hey, who else do you know that might be like has an investment property and would want a cash offer? So we had a lot of stuff pop up from that as well. And then I would ask for referrals from agents as well who did a lot of deals. So I would ask agents like, hey, I've seen you've listed a lot of flips. Do you know anybody else that's, kind of sending you those deals? A lot of times they'll give it to you because they're not, for whatever reason, they just don't think about like, okay, end process is going to be another investor getting it. They'll share it with you. Why work with you? So there's in every city, thousands of agents. The biggest thing that I've probably found is like communication is key. One of the best ones, and I'll kind of show you guys some examples. One of the agents that I had send me the most amount of deals I did, it was strictly because I was showing a house to just a regular buyer. I followed up with her. I called, got a bunch of information to begin with, what I do for all my clients and everything like that. Did the showing, and she called back, and she was just like, she asked me my age, but she was like, how old are you? Like, how long have you been in the business? And I was like, oh no, I did something wrong. Cause like most people can tell I'm younger, and like I get lambasted for that all the time. So it's like, this is going to suck. And I was like, at the time, I think I was like 23. I think I'm 23. She's like, you are amazing. She's like, there's agents that have been in this business for 30 years that wouldn't get that information, wouldn't talk to me that way, wouldn't follow up, wouldn't do a phone call, wouldn't give the feedback as quickly as he did. She's like, I appreciate that so much. And to this day, we're still really good friends. But she sent me a bunch of deals. Like because I did that, she was like, we kind of got talking to how I started in the business. And she worked with an attorney, and she was like, anytime I get a deal like that, I will send it to you, and you'll have like, as long as it works for the clients and everything, She's like, I obviously have to send it out to other people as well, but she's like, I will give you first crack at everything. So communication to me was key. It's such a simple thing. Be willing to cut the commission on deals. I've had this happen quite a bit, like when you are working with an agent like that. And a lot of times if it's a situation where the house is in disarray, it's already tough for the seller. So don't, like, I have got paid 3% on deals like that before, but don't let it trip you up. Like if it's something where it's like, hey, we need this deal to work, I have all the time just been like, take my 3%, let's make this work. I want the back end. Easy closing process. So don't try to score a deal by renegotiating. This is probably the second biggest thing. We had a reputation in Cincinnati and do have a reputation. If we say 7-day close, no inspections, no renegotiations, it's 7-day close. We're not going to go in there and be like, oh, we didn't walk it and we didn't see this and that's a problem. We've walked it. Our numbers are solid. 7 days. As soon as we get clear title, if it's in 2 days, we'll close it if you want. But we're going to get it done. The only thing that we would ever inspect ever was septic tanks, and that's because septic tanks in Cincinnati can go from, you know, a $30,000 rehab to a $80,000 rehab like that. So that was the one thing, and we would put it in the contract. We'd say that's the only thing we're negotiating. Whatever repairs are expected on the septic tank, we will just take that off the price. And every time we have the seller agree to it. So we're like, if it's nothing, same price. If it needs a new tank, you need to credit us the money for the new tank. And then if it's like a $500 repair, we'll take $500 off. Be seen and available. The more you put it out there, the more you'll be top of mind. This is another thing I've seen a lot of agents do. Don't go out and do this once with no consistency and be like, I'm going to have agents source deals. So you start networking, and then you do it for a week and then you stop, because you'll go right back to the bottom of the queue. All of my agents that did this, I was always following up with them. How are they doing this week? What's going on? What do they have coming across their desk? How are their listings looking? It's building up that friendship, but it's also staying top of mind. And I always knew that if I stopped that, and it's genuine, like you're like, just needs to happen naturally, but like it became something where it's like every week, how's everything going? How's the conversations? Maybe if we had a deal that they sent us, we'd send them before and afters. So we'd say like, hey, you remember that house on 123 Main? You know, you remember how like bad it was? Here's the listing. If you have any buyers, feel free to send it to them. You can bring them by before we hit the market, but look how beautiful it is. And they always appreciated that, because they were like, it's cool. It's nice to see the before and afters.
Hey, Eric, I would add, one thing I
Yeah.
can add is, so in states where dual agency is allowed, right, you might not get as many agents, right, sharing the deals, because maybe they try to double end it. However, I will tell you though, that even in those states, and in the states where it's not allowed, then it's even easier. But in the states where it is allowed, like California and many others, especially the ones that work with attorneys and estate sales and things of that nature, a lot of times they don't want to double end. They just don't want to be in the middle of that conflict, right? When they're representing the family and now they're double ending. So I find that a lot of those realtors that have these great relationships with these attorneys, they would rather not even play the game of double ending, because they feel like it could actually shoot them in the foot and they might lose that relationship, and it's just not worth it to them. Those are great, right, agents to stay in front of, even in a dual agency state like California, because they will come to you. If you do what Eric is saying, they all they want is to look good, right, for their own client. And their client is not just the seller. Their client is also the attorney in this case, right?
Yeah.
And if they know that if I go to Eric and his investors are serious, they're going to do what Eric told me they're going to do. They're going to close on time. Like, that's it. Like, that relationship is, you know, they still will go to the others, of course, and have to present it to the public in most cases, right? And other agents. However, I can tell you, if there's 3, 4, 5 offers on the table and Eric is one of them and they're all close, the seller and attorney is going to ask that agent's opinion. Like, what do you think? And the agent is going to be like, well, I really like working with this agent. This agent is awesome. His communication is great. And every investor that he brought to the table has closed, as you know, so I feel very comfortable with Eric and his investor. That's what you
Yeah.
want. You want them to be advocating for you and your client. Like that's like the ultimate win.
And I will say, like, just like a little tidbit aside from this, if you want to like increase the amount of offers you get accepted, go either if you're an agent or have your agent, like just be like, look, if I'm close, what do I need to do to get it? I don't know. Like, I can't tell you how many times like I've done an offer for an investor and I'll tell the agent, I have the rapport, have the reputation, all that already built up. And I'll be like, look, if we're close, like, you know, give me like a price is right. Like, do I need to go higher? Like, where am I at? And we would do that and get deals. Like they would call and they'd be like, hey, look, like this other person never worked with them. Like the proof of funds looks a little weird. Like, you know, we need to be right about here. And I think I can make my seller make it work. And it's like, okay, like let's do that then. Let's make that work. But if you don't ask that question, then they're never going to say that. I've never asked that question and had an agent be like, oh, how dare you? Like they're always like, yeah, absolutely. Like I'll let you, because they're trying to get the most money for the seller. So as long as our numbers pencil out, like they might be like, okay, like, can you bump it up a little bit? And it's like, yeah, let's make it work. So, and I always ask them because sometimes price isn't end all be all. Um, Add value. So like that's another thing I've done with agents. Like if they have questions or if they need contractors, be the connector. If you're the connector in this business, it'll 100% help you all the time. I have so many agents that'll call me. Who do you use for drywall? Who do you use for flooring? Who do you use for this? I have a whole project going on. Who do you have GC wise? Don't be like, those are my contacts. I can't give them to you. Just be like, yeah, absolutely. Here you go. Like, tell them I sent you. And then my contractors and the people that I'm referring off, they love me for it. Like they appreciate that relationship. And I want to see them grow too. I want to help their business. So it's a win-win for everybody. Like the agent appreciates it. And then my contractors, they'll go out of their way to help us out. So I'm going to now, and I'm gonna try and get this prepped a little bit beforehand. I have it prepped, but I'm gonna do this. We're gonna go on here, and I'm gonna share my screen, Randy.
Yeah. Show the examples.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. So we're gonna do desktop one, and it's gonna pull up my Zoom 100 times. So I'm gonna want to put that down. Okay. Can you see my screen? Everything looking good?
Yep.
All right. So the first one I'm going to do, so we're going to do, and I'll kind of tell you guys a little bit about it.
Can
and
you,
I'll show you where we
are you
sourced
able
it.
to show the Facebook posts?
Yeah. Do you want me to do that first or do you want me to do the
Yeah,
examples?
yeah. Like, because that's where it starts, right? So it would be
Yeah.
great to see the actual posts, and you're surprised. They're not anything crazy, but they work. And he's going to show
Yeah.
you how well it worked.
I will like to preface this, like this is as prepared as I got. So they're just saved pictures on my screen.
Yeah.
So this was
Oh,
the
man.
first post we did. A lot of this stuff was branded like turnkey. So a lot of it was branded. This is still the company we work with a lot up in Cincinnati. And this would be the post we'd put out. So this is in Real Estate Investors, Cincinnati, Ohio, realestateinvesting.com. And this was January 7th, 2022. We were looking to buy two to three more houses this month in Hamilton, Butler, Warren, or Claremont counties. And this one, I don't think this one had any comments, but there's other ones in other
So
groups.
let me ask you. So what I've noticed here, it's, so turnkey is the investor partner of
Yeah.
yours.
Mhm.
You're the realtor, of course. But what it looks like
Yeah.
here, you guys have a pretty good relationship because he also created an email that you're using that has turnkey in it. It's not even your email. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
got
we
it.
had, this was our email that that I ran, that everything that came in for sales turnkey was to me.
So
So anybody that was,
you created that email specifically. So it's not like the investor gave you the email. You did it.
so he created it for me, but like
Okay.
any email that came into that email was mine. That was my anything on the
Got it.
investor side.
Okay. But even
So
if they didn't, that's not a bad idea. If you can talk to the investor to do that, because if I look at this, I feel like you're actually part of turnkey, like you're the
that's why
owner,
we did it. Yeah.
right?
And
Which
we
is
did
brilliant,
it.
right?
So
And they don't need to know
yeah.
the details. And then of course, when you get on a call with them, they like, oh yeah, I'm their acquisitions expert. Boom, right? But really, you're the realtor sourcing deals.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the whole point. Like it was just cohesion. So we wanted to make sure that like there wasn't, and sometimes too when you're dealing with these kind of owners, like they're like people are already hesitant. So if like I'm throwing off my email and all this other stuff. They're always like, what's going on here? So this one was a post in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky Real Estate Investors Group. This wasn't an investor. This was a family. They had bought this house. They owned it. This was the first house they ever moved into. So it was super emotional for them. So this was a duplex, and it had gone downhill, and the area had gone downhill. They did not want to list it on the market. They did not want to deal with it. They didn't want to have showings. There was tenants that they had just kicked out. The area wasn't that great. So they were like, what can you do? What can you do to help us? So we posted like duplex, all of this. We posted this in just about every investor group. We sold it without ever having to go on market. We didn't disturb the tenants. We didn't upset the owners. And it ended up being like, I think we closed 10 days after posting it. So this is the reverse side of it. This is me being the agent representing an investor and making sure that I'm making it work around their specific need. And we always try to do like graphics where it's easy to get a hold of us.
Got it. Yeah.
So this one we actually bought. This is probably like our best success story that I can think of, at least recently. This one was awesome. So we got this guy. It's a local agent, had a good relationship with them, had done a lot of transactions with them. He had this house, which was like 2 streets from my house. And then he had another house listed at the same time. Both listed the same day, both listed the same time. We can't tell who the owner is in our MLS. I could have skip traced it, but I called him, saw the one in the one area, called him, said, Josh, look, like you have 2 houses. They're both listed on the same day. What are the chances they're the same owner? He just like started laughing. He's like, they're the same owner. He's looking to sell both. Both needed work. So there was, on this house alone, there was 27 offers. And on the other house, it had been sitting. So actually they were listed different times. I lied to you because the other one had been sitting for like 6 months. So I said, we want the one that's been sitting for 6 months. The one over here, I don't think we're gonna be able to do anything. There's 27 offers. Then I'm talking to him, I'm like, if it's the same owner, would he just do like a package sale? Like we'll give him full price on the one that's been sitting for 6 months. For whatever reason, that was like his big concern. He wouldn't go down on price. I said, but I'm only going to give you 90,000 for this one. And he was like, okay, we'll do that. So we ended up doing 310 for both. We so technically got this one for 90 because our numbers worked on the other one at 220. We turned around, bought this one at 90, and we immediately sold it for 115. It was originally listed for 100, I think. They had 27 offers. We got it for 90 by packaging it with the other one, and we sold it for 115 3 days later. All cash, closed the same day. Title already had a clear title.
Did you find the buyers from posting in these groups?
Yeah, this is there's 10 comments underneath here, bottom right, but there was, by the time this was posted, I think there was like 20, 25. And I mean, we had like one dude was like, look, I want to buy, this is right next to a really big amusement park over there, Kings Island. He's like, I'll purchase it. I'll give it to you. He's like, I was like, well, we already have clear title. We just bought it. And it was a title company he was used to. So went to the title company, transacted it that day. And then the one we bought for 220, we put 70 into. So with holding costs, we were probably all in at 305, 310. We sold it for 355. So it was slam dunk on both deals. And I had people that called me on that one and they're like, you just bought it. Like, how dare you like try and sell it for 115? I'm like, we also just sold it. Like it's been sold for like 3 days because they were calling me like 5 days after. And I had a bunch of investors that were upset they didn't get it. They were like, we were one of like the 27 offers. Like, how'd you get it? And I was just like, we like set it up. I'm gonna have to mute myself for a second. Give me 1 second. I had somebody coming to fix something. You're good to go down. So we're good. Yeah, so we ended up just selling it. Like it just, so I had a ton of people that were upset. They were like, we were like one of 20. And I'm like, sorry, like just package it together. This is another one of those posts. So I think I had like 2 of them, but this is a separate group. So we'd post these out. We originally had this where this would get posted out once every 2 weeks. And I think the next one's the one with the zip code list. Let me check. Yeah. This is the other thing that always helped us a ton. Same group. This is like one of the best groups that we had in terms of it. So this is the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky Real Estate Group. And we would post every zip code that we worked in actively. So, and we just send out, we're looking to buy more houses this month, flips or rentals. We can do a cash offer, 10-day close, no inspections or appraisals. Reach out to me if you have anything in these zip codes. And we'd get a ton of people that would just be like, hey, I have a listing coming up. I don't feel like, it needs work. Will you come take a look at it? And we just give like cash offers, no problem. If they said no, we just said, okay, well, now your seller knows what a cash offer is going to look like in this market, because we were always competitive.
Got it. So all of these, what we're trying to show is like, he's literally leveraging, social media to get off-market opportunities for his investor clients, which then lead to multiple transactions on some of these, deals that these investors end up picking up, because then Eric ends up listing them, right? And here's some example of that. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna full screen this one. This one was I had an agent that called me. Didn't really know the agent a whole lot. Looking back at it, it was like just a really weird situation, but called me and said, hey, would you offer 165? Got a property in Blanchester. Blanchester's about 45 minutes outside of Cincinnati, kind of rural. At first I'm like, you're just like, that's too high. Like, I don't think we're gonna be able to do it. So I ran some comps, got some more information on the house, and it was beautiful home, 3.5 acres, spring fed pond in the back that you'll see. So I take my investor to it. I'm like, let's go look at it, see what it's at. It's at 165. Why not? The investor had just done a new roof, new windows, new HVAC. The only thing that really needed done was like cosmetic stuff and crawl space work. This one was on crawl space. So talked to my investor, and he was like, there's no way this thing's going to sell for more than 270. Like I like 160 is like our max. And he's like, even then I'm probably going to get screwed on it. I'm like, I'll literally bet you this sells over 300. And I was like, probably push 350, because it's 3.5 acres and the market was still crazy then. He argued with me forever on this one. He's like, there's no way. And I'm like, I'm telling you, man. So he bought it for 160 through the agent who called us. We put in 160. I think our all in, it ended up being a lot. It ended up being like I think we got all the way up to like 270 or 280 on it, which we didn't expect. The crawl space was a lot worse than we expected. But we listed, sold for 340. We listed this one at 330, and our original offer, there was some stuff that should have been done originally. Our original offer on this was 365. So we were above the 350. It was a rock solid deal. Still made a ton of money. And I don't know if I can find it on here. We found it last time, Randy. Let's see. Oh, right here. So like, you can tell that we didn't buy it. Like, it's just public record. There's no MLS down here, just says public record. So it was just a transfer. We bought it for 160, listed it for 330. Originally had an offer this first time right here at 365, and then we sold it at 338.
Do you remember like this agent specifically? Like, how did this agent know of you?
I think it was through just one of the posts. Like, she was like, I've just seen you post a lot of stuff. She did know my investor a little bit, but she had never worked with him. Like, she was like, yeah, I know Turnkey. And she's like, I keep seeing your post everywhere. So like, just figured I'd give it a shot. And it was a weird situation. I told you about this, Randy. This ended up being a 3 transaction one for me. So I listed this. The first deal fell through. We had a sign in the yard. So it kind of sat for a little bit. And I was like, oh no, like, what's going on? I had somebody call the sign. They said, look, ironically enough, I grew up in the home. I rented it. Like, my family rented it for a while. He said, I really want it. But he's like, I have to sell a home in Blanchester as well. Would you be willing to sell my house so I can buy this one? So we had both sides on this. So we dual ended the commission here, agent, and we listed his home in Blanchester and sold it for I think we sold it for 215.
And did you make anything on the front end for finding the deal for your investor, or did you waive that?
Yeah, he would pay me if I didn't get paid on a commission. He would typically pay me like, it was either whatever was most. It was either a $1,500 flat fee or it was 1% of the purchase price. So I think I got $1,600 for this one.
Okay, got it. So really, you got paid four times, technically.
Yeah, and technically 5, because we used a hard money lender that I had introduced in the business. So I got 1% of all the hard money. So he would pay me 1 point on every loan.
Really?
Because I introduced
you referred the lender.
Yeah, but it's because I introduced him into the business and we built up a relationship. So he was like, hey, I really appreciate you kind of doing this. He was like, every loan that you refer us, he's like, we'll give you 1 point. So it was great. This one was the agent I was talking about that I built up the really good relationship with. One of my favorite people ever.
Hey, let me pause. I think I don't want to just skim over that. That's a pretty good point. So if you're an agent working with investors, like, don't hesitate to build relationships with hard money lenders, right? Locally or national, the ones that do local business. and just straight up ask them like, hey, do you pay anything if I refer investor clients to you that you haven't worked with before? And I could guarantee you all of them will say yes. So it's just another way to get a couple more bucks in your pocket for doing what you're already doing.
Yeah, exactly. And they're typically happy to do it. They have upfront points. This one was a call. It was attorney based. It was parents had passed away, went into probate. They were just looking for an offer. This one we were under contract on, I think, for 5 months. The siblings couldn't agree to sell it. This was probably one of the biggest nightmare deals I've ever done. They could not agree to get a sale price. Sorry, my dog's in the background. Couldn't agree on a sale price, so we had to figure out like what was going on and everything like that. Sorry. So this one was kind of a headache, but I have another one I have a couple more that are good. Let's go. We did that. I'm gonna have to pull up my notes on this. And all of these, like most of these, I should say, we were the ones approached. Like we weren't the ones that were doing anything or anything like that. These are the other ones. 774 price null. So this one, this one was the same. Sadly, the agent. This was her ex mother-in-law. It was her ex-husband's mother-in-law. Really good friend of mine. She called me. She said, "Hey, I think you'd like this." She said, "It's a really tough situation. I am personally involved." And she's like, "If I wasn't, I would flip it." So she flips homes. And she was like, "So I need you to offer me something that makes sense on this." And so and I'll scroll down. I think we bought this one for 160 as well. I promise that's not what we offer on all of our deals.
Too far. Right there.
Oh, 183. Okay, so 183. So we bought this for 183. Did a ton of work, but we were the first ones to look at it, and we kind of knew that 360 number was going to be the one. Did some extensive rehab, but because of this, there's another one I'm going to show here in a second that she sent us because we did this one, and we ended up just buying her we kind of went all out. We bought her like a closing gift. I think I like kicked her back like 1% of the 3% commission that the attorney had set out. Like we just tried to I knew it was kind of a tough situation and we made it super easy. She was like, "It's my ex-husband. We still have a good relationship, but it was his mom that passed." It's a super emotional transaction. So we weren't like pounding every 2 seconds, "Hey, what's going on with our offer?" We offered, we said, "Get back to us when you can and let us know. We'd be glad to help." And this is another one that we dual ended. We listed this for anybody that wants a lesson. We listed this the week of Christmas, kind of against my best wishes. I hate listing, Christmas time. We sat for like 2 weeks and it was still when the market was hot, but it was like super cold. It was a couple of years ago. It was 3 years ago, or two. It was super cold that year in Cincinnati. So this sat and we ran Facebook ads on it. I randomly had to reach out to a Facebook ad. Had somebody reach out, showed it to them once and they ended up purchasing it.
You listed it before Thanksgiving. I think that's what you meant to say. I saw the date.
Yeah, sorry.
It's November 4th. But so that agent, I mean, it looks like it was on the MLS. So obviously they got other offers potentially, but because you guys had a relationship, it almost looked like she teed you up.
It wasn't on the MLS. She put it in the MLS afterwards just to go towards her Cincinnati stats.
Oh, just get the credit for it.
Yeah. So if you look, so this other one, she did the same thing. So to get like in Cincinnati, to get like our President's Club award and stuff like that, that's why you typically put it in there.
Oh, got it.
And I'll scroll down for you guys.
Yeah, I just saw MLS. That's why I asked, but that makes sense. Yes, agents will do that. And then the listing will say sold before listing, right?
Yeah.
And that basically means it was off-market sale to an investor. But in this case, you have Eric, a realtor, in the middle making commission because he's known to be working with serious investors.
And this one, if she listed it, it would have had it on there before. So she did the same thing on the other one, which I'm like, don't blame you there. Let me go back to this. I have no clue what's going on with this. 7935 Shell Day. All right. And then this one, so this one was a really good deal. Again, winter time, which you'll see here in a second, which is what kind of killed us on it. So this one we bought back in 2022, same agent as the last one. So she called me after we knocked out the first one out of the park, kept in contact with her all the time. Really good friend again. So she called me and she said, "Look, I just ran across this. It's an older guy. His wife passed a couple of years ago. He is just moving to a retirement home. They've been in the home for the past like 35 years. And she was like, they're just looking to get rid of it quickest they can, and also just with the least amount of stress." So I told Karen that her name was Karen. I told her, I'm like, look, we will do it. And she's like, just being upfront honest with you. She's like, I need to shop it around. He needs the most amount of money he can get. He's going to a retirement home. So we went in, knew it would turn into a pretty good deal. So we bought it for 325, but we originally offered 310. And I kept telling Karen, she's like, look, I'm shopping around. And I was like, okay, well, just keep me updated. Let me know. Give us last shot. So she called me about 5 days later and she said, look, there's a company that will pay 325. But she's like, it's a larger company. She's like, I really don't want to deal with them. She's like, I'd rather sell it to you guys. I know you're local. I know you've done one of our deals. Would your buyer be able to come in for 325? So we bought it for 325. And then she also, after we went on our contract, she calls me and she goes, hey, I've got 3% commission in here. I'll get you over everything. And I told her, I'm like, look, like I met the guy. He was super sweet. I'm like, keep the 3%, give it to him. Hopefully it goes towards his, being able to live in a retirement home and stuff. So she did the same thing. She cut her commission completely. So instead of charging him anything on this, we ended up, it's about 20 grand on 325. So we ended up both just cutting our commission and helping the guy out.
So wait, so
Listen,
she said, hey, Eric, I want to pay you because I already have a listing commission of a buyer's agent agreed upon with
Yeah.
the seller. So we are willing to pay you 3%. And you said, you know what? Don't worry about it. Is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And then she cut it afterwards too. Like she cut hers afterwards too. She's like, you know what? Like, I think that's the best idea. Let's just cut it. We'll help him out. So it was a good situation. We were able to give him a ton of time to move out. We were able to we ended up helping him, I believe, like scheduling something for him to move. So it was just a situation where like, help him out. He'd been in the house forever. He's a sweet guy. This one, I believe bought it for 325. I want to say we put like 120,000. So we were all in at 445 and we ended up selling at 525. And this one sat for a while, like compared to this was getting into last year. This was like right when the rate hikes started to happen. This was when people were starting to be a little bit more hesitant. And this is kind of a 525 is pricey in Cincinnati. So
But it's
not the
funny
same
you say,
interest.
you keep saying we, but really you did not do the rehab. It's the investor that did all the work. Is that like you were not a partner in the rehab, correct?
No, so I'm not a partner. Yeah, so I'm not a partner, but like shouldn't say we, but basically kind of just because we did everything together.
I think I want to point that out because like you have such a strong relationship with this investor that you guys are basically partners, right? Yeah, everyone's got their responsibility. You're the acquisition and sales guy, and they're the rehabber, right? Technically, even though it's them buying it, taking on all the risk, and you're over there making the commissions, which is just as valuable, of course, all the work you're doing, because they wouldn't have any of these deals, right?
Yeah.
But none of these deals came directly from sellers. None of these, all of them came from agent relationships by just you being known as the guy that has serious investor clients, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what I liked about it. That's what makes it unique. And not a lot of agents leverage those serious investor clients the way you just presented it. That's the point I want to stress. Is like, if you're an agent and you're working with investor clients that are just solid, like literally you could be marketing them the same exact way Eric is doing it right now, and probably start getting leads sent over to you that are off market like this week.
Yeah.
Versus just
And
waiting
we would do
what happens on the MLS, what pops up on the MLS, and be one of the many realtors that are now hounding the listing agent for the same property, right? That's the strategy that what I really like about it, right? And it's so simple. It's like, it's not that difficult. It's just consistency and becoming known as the guy, right? That realtor that really just loves working with investors, right?
Yeah, and that's like probably, I know I showed 4 examples. I would say we've probably done 25, 30 like that. Like it's like a lot of our deals came that way. Like and he also, my investor was the one that got me really good at this. He was like king of it because his, like him as an investor, everything he did was relationship built. That's how he sourced all of his deals. So he would build relationships, not even just with agents, but like other investors and other wholesalers. And he would just like, he was so good at it. And he would like, even ones where I didn't have contact with the agent, he'd call me and be like, "Hey, this investor sent me this." I'm like, "Okay, like you want me to run it?" He's like, "Yeah, it just came in." I'm like, "Where'd you get it from?" He's like, "Well, they need to sell it, so they called me." And I was like, "Okay." So that's what he was big on, and that's how we knocked out a lot of them.
Awesome. Good stuff, man. We got 3 minutes left. Any questions on what Eric is, presenting on or presented on? Comments, questions?
I saw one, cash offers are using hard money loans. So we do use hard money loans. Some of them were cash offers and they were private money loans. And I talked to my broker in Cincinnati because I always did cash. Technically the wording was fine. So we were good. We had proof of funds, and our private money lender, there was no applications, appraisals, or anything like that. Like we had built up the relationship with the hard money lender where it's like, give us the offer, we'll close as soon as we get cleared title.
Well, the truth is hard money is there's no financing contingency, right? Which makes it cash, right? So don't trip too much over that term. Like, oh my God, I'm getting hard money. Can I say I'm a cash buyer? Yes, you are a cash buyer, right? Every investor that does volume borrows the money from somewhere, right? If they actually paid cash and walked into the attorney's office or an escrow office, which it never happens, right? They would only be able to do one deal or something, right? And when we were, like for example, in San Diego, we're flipping 60 properties a year as an example. Like we don't use our own money. Like we use private money and bank lines at this point. We don't use hard money anymore, but back in the day when we were getting started, hard money and private money. Then the hard money, we transition over to bank lines, and then private money is continued being used because it's very cheap, right? But at the end of the day, when we lock up the property and we're under contract, then we say, hey, we're introducing loan documents for our cash line. It's a cash line, right? But it has no financing contingency. And if it's explained correctly to the other realtor, it doesn't matter. They're like, look, nothing changes. Our closing is still the same 7 days from now or 10 days from now. This is just money we use from this cash line in order to do multiple deals at a time. And then they don't care.
Yeah, I had a little bit of kickback, but some agents will just they'll make anything difficult. So I had some agents that are like, it's not cash. I'm like, it's cash.
Yeah. Awesome stuff, man. Cool. Well, we're perfectly on a dot now, top of the hour. But thanks, Eric. That was good. I wanted to share, how somewhat simple this could be if you just do consistently. And if you're an investor, like find Eric in your area. They're out there. They're hungry to work with you, right? And if you're that realtor that wants to work with investors, like partner with a serious investor. So it's just the vice versa, right? Just do the reverse and follow what Eric did. And it's amazing the things you can do literally and drum up business within days, leveraging Facebook groups, sitting at home and connecting with other realtors. So one thing I would add is I just remembered. So this is not in every city. So let me share this, the last tip. But caravans are very popular in San Diego County. And caravans, we talked about this here in previous trainings, is where realtors get together, right? And they pitch the properties that they have coming up, or maybe they just listed, or they talk about the buyers that they're working with, right? So I leverage those tremendously in San Diego County, right? And when we were building out our name as the investor, right? But because we were licensed, we would go to these caravans, and every time they said, hey, anyone has any buyer needs, I would raise my hand and be like, yep, actually, I am the buyer. I'm looking for the ugliest homes you guys have, right? The fire damage, foundation issues, I don't care. And I would love if you can represent me if you have those opportunities. So I basically told everybody in the room that they can double end the deals if they have those, right? On the flip side, if I'm Eric and I have caravans happening in my area, I would then be the one going to those caravans saying, hey, I have a great buyer, like turnkey, blah, 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 investment company. They do amazing work. They honestly, like, just honest, good people. They close, they close quick. Like, and if you got anything, let me know. I would love to work with you on those, right? So you can literally just do the same exact thing, right? Except you now are the agent at the caravans talking about your investor clients, right? So I'll leave you with that and see you guys in a month, but let's stay in touch in the group. If you guys have any questions, please post them in the Facebook group so Eric and I can get to it. And yeah, we'll see you in a month again. We'll come up with another great topic. And Reggie said HML is asset based, so it's like cash. I ran in. Yep, that's right. So he just confirms what we said. But awesome. Happy New Year, everybody. I think we can still say that for the next few days, but then I think once we hit February, then I think it's done, right? That
Yep.
term.
Before we go, Wade said go Bucks. So I'm gonna second that just because our Buccaneers are on a roll. So
that's right. What a shocker, man. They crushed the Eagles, man. That was amazing.
I have zero faith against the Lions, but I'll take it. One playoff win was a lot better than I expected this season to go.
Awesome. All right. Well, good to see everybody. See you guys in
Yeah.
a month. And bye.
Bye, guys.